respectively, with the Python Docx module. You can install this module by running Word documents. Word documents have the dot. We'll cover how Python can create and modify Word documents. Word documents have the .docx file extension, and Python can interact with these files with the Python Docx module. You can install this module by running pip install python-docx. Now, if you don't have Word, LibreOffice Writer and OpenOffice Writer are both .org respectively. Structure is represented by 3 different data types in Python Docx. At the highest level, a document object represents the entire Word document. The document object contains a list of paragraph objects for the paragraphs in the document, and each of these paragraph objects contains a list of one or more run objects. I'll be describing each of these with this file, demo.docx, which you can download from aut4.com/demo. .docx. So you can see right here, this is the entire document, and each of these are paragraph objects. A new paragraph starts whenever you press enter. So let's go ahead and import docx. So the module's name is Python Docx, but the name that you use to import it is simply docx. And now let's call docx.document with a capital D and pass it the file name for this file. I've saved it to users/al/documents/demo. .docx. And this will return a new document object, so I'll just store that in a very variable named D. Oh, whoops. Had a typo here. Docx.document. So the document object has a paragraphs member variable, and this contains a list of paragraph objects. You can see here, this is a list. And each of these are paragraph objects. So let's take a look at the first paragraph object. That's at index 0. And each of these paragraph objects has a text member variable which contains a string. Of the text in this paragraph. So you can see right here the first paragraph has the text document title. You can see that right here as well. And we can take a look at the second paragraph at index 1, and you can see that this text matches the text here. So I'm going to save that second paragraph to a variable called p, and each paragraph object also contains one or more runs in a member variable called runs. This is a list of run objects. So a new run starts whenever there's a change in the style. So for this paragraph object, there are 4 runs. So this is a run, and then the style changes to bold text. So this is the second run. And then there are 4 runs. So this is a run, and then the style changes to bold text. So there are 4 runs. A new run starts whenever there's a change in the style. So for this paragraph object, there are 4 runs. So this is a run, and then the style changes to bold text. So this is the second run. And then it changes back to the normal, non-bolded text. So that's the third run. And then this text is italicized, so that's the 4th run. We can say right here, run objects also have a text member variable. And one more thing to note is that each of these run objects also has bold, italic, and underline member variables. So since this run is bolded, you can see bold is enabled right here, its bold member variable is set to true. Whereas if we looked at 0, this is actually set to the none value. So we can take a look at its bold member variable is set to true. And one more thing to note is that each of these run objects also has bold, italic, and underline member variables. So since this run is bolded, you can see bold is enabled right here, its bold member variable is set to true. Whereas if we looked at 0, this is actually set to the none value. We can take a look at the 4th run at index 3, we can see that italic is set to true. Now if we want to change any of this, we can just change these member variables to whatever we want. So I'll just leave italic as true. I'll set underline to also be true for this run object. And not only that, but let me change the text to italic and underlined. And now that I've made this change right here, I can go ahead and take that document object that I have in D and call its save method. And I'll just save this as demo2.docx. Let me go ahead and open up that file. You can see right here, the text has been changed, and also, not only is this italicized, but it's also underlined. I have set the underline member variable to true, so that's changed this document. And there's one more thing back here in the original demo.docx. In Word, if you hold down Ctrl-Alt-Shift-S, you can bring up the styles. And so every paragraph and run has its own style. So you can see right here, this is the title style. Right here, this is the normal style. You can see I could change this style to be normal, and that changes the entire paragraph style. Let me just undo that. So Word documents come with several of these built-in styles. Now paragraph and run objects also have a style member variable that's set to the string of the style name. So let's say I wanted to set this entire paragraph to the title style as well, just like document title. I can set this to title, and then let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to save this as demo3.docx and open that up in Word. And you can see not only is this set to the title style, but this paragraph is also set to the title style. So I've shown you how to change the text and modify the styles and bold, italic, underline styles here. Let's go ahead and create a brand new Word document. I'm going to save this to the variable d, just call this docx.document, and not passing it any string. This will create a blank new document. It's nowhere on the hard drive, it only exists inside the Python program. So all document objects also have an add paragraph method. You can pass this a string of the text that that paragraph will have. Hello, this is a paragraph. And the paragraph that gets created is added to this document object, but it's also, just for convenience, returned from the add paragraph method. Let's create another one, add paragraph. This is another paragraph. And now I'll just save this as demo4.docx. Let's open that up. You can see this is one paragraph, and a new paragraph starts by pressing enter, so this is the second paragraph. Now let's say I wanted to add some more text after this, hello, this is a paragraph. Let me find that first paragraph object from the paragraphs list in the document object. That'll be at index 0. I'll save that to the variable p. And here I can just call, just like document objects have an add paragraph method, paragraph objects have an add run method. And I can just say this is a new run. You can see right here now there are two run objects inside this paragraph object. Let me grab that second one at index 1 and set its bold to true. So right here, this is that first paragraph we added, then we added a second paragraph. We went back to that first paragraph and saved it to the variable p and added a new run to that first paragraph, and then we set that new run to bold. So I'm just going to call the save method on that document object. Save this as demo5.docx and open that up. And right here you can see there are now two runs inside this paragraph object. Here's the first run, and here's the second run that's been set to bold. So unfortunately there's no way of inserting paragraph and run objects anywhere except at the end. They might add this to Python Docx in a future version. So if you want to modify an existing Word document, what you'll have to do is... So unfortunately there's no way of inserting paragraph and run objects anywhere except at the end. They might add this to Python Docx in a future version. So if you want to modify an existing Word document, what you'll have to do is open up the existing Word document and then also create a new document by calling docx.document, and then just start copying all of the paragraph and run objects to the new document, adding them with add paragraph and add run, and then making changes while you're copying those over. So let's just say you wanted to just get all of the text inside of a Word document as a string. Let's just create a simple function that does that for us. I'm going to open up a new file editor, and I'll demonstrate this function in a tiny little program. Let's just say we'll have a getText function, and you just pass it the file name of a Word doc, and it will return a single string value of all the text in that Word document. So we'll just have to call docx.document and pass it that file name to open that Word file. And now let's start off a blank list in a variable called fullText. And we'll have to loop over all of the paragraphs in that document object. So for paragraph, I'll just call it para, in doc.paragraphs, this is that list of paragraph objects that are inside of the document object. And let's just append to that full text list the text of each paragraph object. And then at the end of it, we can just join them together with the join method with a new line character in between each of the strings inside full text right here. And this will form the single string with all of the text from all of the paragraphs. So we'll just return that. So we can just test this out. I'll just print out the string returned from getText. Let's just pass it that original file that we have in users, al, documents. This is my documents folder. Demo.docx. And I'll save this as example.py and run it. And you can see here's all of the text with a new line character in between each paragraph so that it's not all on one line. And the text here matches the text in demo.docx. So this is a really simple function. You can just write it yourself. But that'll be really convenient if you just want to get a single string of all the text that's inside of a Word document and you don't care about things like bold and underlined and styles. So to recap, Python docx can read and write Word files. You can open up a Word file with docx.document, and you can access the paragraph objects from the paragraphs member variable of that document object. This is a list of paragraph objects, and paragraph objects have a text member variable that contains the text as a string value. And paragraphs are composed of runs. There's a runs member variable in each paragraph object, and this is a list of run objects. And run objects also have a text member variable. Now in addition, run objects also have a bold, italic, and underline member variable, which can be set to true or false or none, just to have that run inherit the bold, italic, or underline attribute that the paragraph has. And both paragraph and run objects have a style member variable that you can set to one of Word's built-in styles. And if you want to create your own Word documents from Python, you can call the document object's addParagraph method or the addRun method for paragraph objects. Welcome to lesson 46. In this lesson lesson, we're going to learn how to send emails from our Python programs. This can be a great way to send notifications. Say if you have a program that is doing web scraping and checking a website over and over again, you can have this program then email you whenever it finds some particular thing that you're looking for. Or maybe you need to send out emails to a bunch of specific people based on some criteria that you program in, like maybe a program that goes through a spreadsheet and then finds people who are behind on dues or haven't received a reminder in a while, and then just email them in particular. This can save you a lot of copying and pasting email addresses into some email program like Gmail. Let's get started. So the protocol that sending email uses is called SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and Python has an implementation of this protocol in a module called SMTP-lib. So there are a lot of different steps to this, so I'm just going to go through all the steps of sending an email first, and then we can later look at each step in more detail. So first, let's go ahead and import SMTP-lib. This is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol library. Next, we'll have to create a connection object, which I'll store in a variable called con. Welcome to lesson. Objects also care about things in demo.doc, things like bold and under. Welcome to lesson 46. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to send emails from our Python programs. This can be a great way to send notifications. Say if you have a program that is doing web scraping and checking a website over and over again, you can have this program then email you whenever it finds some particular thing that you're looking for. Or maybe you need to send out emails to a bunch of specific people based on some criteria that you program in, like maybe a program that goes through a spreadsheet and then finds people who are behind on dues or haven't received a reminder in a while, and then just email them in particular. This can save you a lot of copying and pasting email addresses into some email program like Gmail. Let's get started. So the protocol that sending email uses is called SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And Python has an implementation of this protocol in a module called SMTP-lib. So there are a lot of different steps to this, so I'm just going to go through all the steps of sending an email first, and then we can later look at each step in more detail. So first, let's go ahead and import SMTP-lib. This is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol library. And next, we'll have to create a connection object, which I'll store in a variable called con. And the function we want to call is smtplib.smtp in caps. And then we'll have to connect to the SMTP server. This is the domain name of your email server. So I'm going to use Gmail. And their SMTP server is at smtp.gmail.com. And then followed by the port number, which is usually port 587. So we have this connection object. And now let's go ahead and connect to the server. So this will actually send out internet traffic from our Python program. We're going to call the LO function, which this is a lot of history of why it has this weird name. It used to be hello with just one L, and then that got switched around to LO, and you just know that you have to call this function to start the connection. So that's the hello function. And next, we can see that it returned this tuple of an integer, which is the code, the response code. Anything that begins with 200 means okay, so 250 means yeah, okay, we connected. And then the second item here, this is actually a bytes object and not a string, but it can easily be interpreted as a string. Bytes are sort of beyond the scope of this lesson, but here you can see, okay, it returned us a message that said, you know, everything looks great. So after connecting with hello, we have to start the TLS encryption, so that way when we send our password, it'll be encrypted. So this returned code 220, that means everything's okay. And now let's go ahead and log in. And so we have to call the login function, pass it our username, so aswigert@gmail.com, and then the password, which is this. Of course, by the time you watch this video, I will have changed this password, so don't bother trying to hack into my email account. So now, our script is now logged in, and we can start sending emails by calling the sendMail function. So first, we'll have to get the from address, which will just be aswigert@gmail.com. And then we pass the to address. So I'm just going to go ahead and email myself. Just remember that the first one is the from address, which you should make your email address the same that you logged in with. And then the second is who this email is going to. And then followed by the body of the email. Now this is kind of complicated because the headers and the body of the email are all crammed into this string and they follow a certain format. So here's the format. First type subject with a capital S, colon, space, and then type in the subject. So this will be a single line. I'll say the subject is so long. And then we'll have a new line character that ends the subject, and then another new line character. That means we're done with the headers. There are other headers besides subject, but I'm just going to talk about the subject header. So basically we just need these two new line characters, and then we'll have the main body of the email. So I'll just write an email to myself. Dear Al, another new line character, so long, and thanks for all the fish. New line, from Al. Okay, and then I'll just press enter, and then it sends this email. So you can send multiple emails at a time with the sendMail function. You can consult the documentation for that. And the return object and the return value from sendMail is going to be a dictionary that has all of the emails that it failed to send. So if you get a blank dictionary back, that means the emails were all sent correctly. And so we could then send another email by calling the sendMail method again. But at this point I'm already done, so I'll have my script just call quit. And that'll disconnect me from the SMTP server. I can go ahead and check my email right now and see that, yep, that got emailed to me. Okay, so that's the entire process. Let's dive into the details for each part. This is kind of complicated because there's a lot of different steps. You don't have to memorize all the steps. Just be familiar with them enough so that you can look up the documentation. So the first thing we do is import the SMTP library. That's pretty standard enough. And then we call this SMTP function, passing it the domain name and port number. So the port number for the SMTP protocol is 587. Ports are a part of the internet address that you're sending data to. So it's on this server and then on this port of that server. So this is a domain name. If you've ever configured Outlook or Thunderbird or some other email client to connect to maybe your ISP's email address, you might have gone through a step like this. So every ISP or email service has their own domain name for SMTP servers. Usually it'll just be whatever their name is .com, but with SMTP dot in front of it. So, welcome to lesson 46. In this lesson, you can see here's a bunch of very popular email providers, such as Gmail. You can see for 465 here for those. Next, we call the hello method just to connect to that SMTP server. And then we just call start TLS to begin encryption. Most modern email servers will require that you actually start encryption before you can actually log in. And then next you'll call the login method and pass it your username and password as strings. And then finally sendMail will actually send out the emails. And then when you're all done, you can call the quit method to disconnect. One thing to keep in mind if you're using Gmail, Google has a thing called application-specific passwords. That means that your typical Google account password isn't going to be the one that you log in with here. In fact, you have to go ahead and look up Google app-specific password. And you can find details for generating an application-specific password. This is so that you can create a password for, say, Python programs, or for your phone, or if your TV logs into your email account or whatever. And that way, if you have to change one of the passwords, you won't have to change your password on multiple devices, because each device will have its own password. And then calling the sendMail method will actually send out the email. Now note that a lot of email providers, in order to prevent people from, writing Python scripts that could spam millions of people a day, they'll usually limit you at, I think Gmail has a limit of about 100 or 150 emails per day. Other providers might have a limit of 500 or 1,000 per day. Basically, if you have to email out thousands of emails every day, you should probably look into an actual commercial mailing list service. So that's the entire process. To recap, first you just import smtplib, then you call the smtp function, passing it the domain name of your email provider's SMTP server, then call LO, then call start TLS, then call login with your password and username, and then call sendMail with the from, to, and body strings of the email. Remember that in order to have the subject, you need to have subject : space, then the subject line, followed by 2 new line characters before the main part of the email is sent.